You are not joining us. My husband thinks it's better to leave. That was a message that ended everything and began something far deeper. In today's powerful story, a monk reflects on a painful moment of betrayal, grief, and quiet transformation after receiving a text from the one person he thought would never turn her back on him. What follows is not revenge, but something far more profound awakening. Subscribe now for weekly introspective stories and life lessons that pierce the heart and open the soul. Each story is more than drama, it's a mirror for your own journey. Hit that bell icon and don't miss the next lesson. They say words don't wound, but that's only said by people who never read the kind of message that unravels your soul. In a single breath, my name no longer matters much. I live now in silence, among stone walls and cedar trees, where nothing is rushed and no one shouts. But before the monastery, before the robes, before the stillness, I was a father, and not just any father, a single father raising my daughter, Rena, after her mother passed in her sleep when Rena was just 9. We survived on simple things, no lavish vacations, no luxury gifts, just books, conversation, warmth. I cooked dinner every night. I braided her hair before school. I held her through every heartbreak, and I believe, foolishly perhaps, that love alone would be enough to protect us from life's crueler lessons. But life, I've come to learn, has its own curriculum. Rena grew into a woman with sharp ambition and a softer voice. She moved to the city, got a job in marketing, married a man named Duran, a man with charm thick as honey, but a gaze that never quite met your eyes. He called me Baba, but it always felt like a borrowed word, not earned. Still, I respected their space. I visited only when invited, sent blessings on every birthday. I never wanted to intrude, only to remain part of the orbit of her world. Then, one autumn, Rena invited me to spend Diwali with them. My heart lit up brighter than any lantern. I packed my modest bag, bought sweets from her favorite childhood shop, and even included a hand-wrapped gift for Duran, a rare book I'd found on business ethics. A quiet gesture, but before I could board the train, my phone buzzed. A message, just a few words. Baba, you're not joining us. Duran thinks it's better to leave things as they are. Please don't come. I read it again and again. There was no anger, no explanation, no apology, just a digital exile, sealed with a full stop. I stood there in the station for a long time, people brushing past me like wind, my bag in my feet, my breath caught somewhere between grief and disbelief. I didn't reply. Some messages deserved silence. In the days that followed, I drifted like an autumn leaf. No direction, just falling. I didn't eat much. I didn't sleep. I replayed every memory, every bedtime story, every scraped knee, every school recital. Had it all been illusion? But monks believe something deeply. Suffering, when held in stillness, reveals truth. And so I stopped running from the pain. I let it sit beside me like an old companion. And in that stillness, I began to see this wasn't just Rena's decision. This was the culmination of something far older, far quieter, a slow erosion of connection. Her calls had grown shorter. Her husband always answered when I rang. My presence, once a pillar in her life, had become a shadow she'd learned to ignore. And Duran, the signs had been there. The way he joked about old traditions, the time I saw him hiding a call when I entered the room, the way he said, "She's too soft when you're around." A seed of suspicion took root. Not revenge, just curiosity. I reached out, quietly, to a friend in the city, someone who worked in corporate law. I asked for nothing official, just insight. A week later, he called. What he told me felt like ice down my spine. Duran had been under quiet scrutiny by his firm, financial irregularities, misuse of client funds, false invoices. But he was smart and never directly connected. Except for one named Mine. Apparently, a small fund had been created in my name, a family support initiative. I'd never heard of it, but my signature, poorly forged, was on file. Documents I'd never signed, transfers I'd never approved. I was being used as a ghost donor, a financial front, a tool. I thanked my friend, hung up and I smiled. I did not expose him. I did not confront Rena. I chose the older, harder path. Reflection. In preparation, I gathered every document he had used, requested copies silently, created a secure digital trail, wrote a letter not to the firm but to Duran himself. In it, I said, I know. I've always known more than I said. I watched as my daughter dimmed her light to match your shadow. I watched as you used my name not with respect, but convenience. I say nothing now because I want you to sit with what you've done, like I did at that station with her message. Silence is heavier than words, and you will feel its weight. I sent it without a return address. Then I vanished from their lives. Months passed. The firm acted without my involvement. Others had already built a case. Duran's empire collapsed quietly. His name, once shining, faded from digital billboards to hushed courtroom whispers. And Rena, she reached out. Not with anger, but with sorrow. She said, I didn't know. Baba, I was blind. I thought protecting him was loyalty. I didn't realize I was losing you to keep him. I didn't reply, not because I hated her, but because some answers must be earned, not given. She came to the monastery months later. She found me sweeping the courtyard. She stood in silence, unsure. I handed her the broom, and she swept beside me. Sometimes, the deepest betrayals don't come with shouting or slammed doors. They come as silence where love once lived, and sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's absence, a space so vast, so quiet, that those who pushed you away finally hear their own echoes. If you ever receive a message that breaks your heart, don't let it shatter your soul. Pause. Sit with it. Let it reveal what was hidden, and when the time comes, walk away, not in anger, but in clarity. Because sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. If this story stirred something in you, if you've ever been pushed aside, overlooked, or quietly betrayed, know this: you are not alone. Subscribe to this channel. Here, we don't chase noise, we listen for truth. Each story is a step towards stillness, towards strength, towards self. Click subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next lesson. Until then, walk gently. And remember, the message that breaks you can also be the one that begins your awakening.